Hey folks, today we're going to be talking about all the features that we've included in the January 16th release, the first release of MetaLocator in 2026. In addition to the usual bug fixes, performance improvements, we've got a handful of really exciting features that we're going to talk about in this video. Stay around. Okay, the first feature we're going to talk about is actually a new type of record prioritization that is called category ranking. And so typically prioritization allows you to cause certain results to be presented higher than others in the search results in your locator. And we have things like category-based prioritization. For example, if you're in a category, you get boosted up. We have custom field prioritization, where if you, based on the value of a custom field, that location can be boosted. This one is a slight variation of those, where we actually specify a numeric value with each of the categories a location is in. We add all those up, and then that dynamically becomes the ranking or prioritization value that is used. And that's handy for when you want to have a dynamic ranking that's based on all the products and services as represented by categories that might be associated with a particular location. You can even specify negative values. Let's say, for example, you have a category that represents something that is non-preferred. You can specify a negative value, and that will actually detract dynamically from that particular location's rank. And so the first step is to set up ranking values for your categories. So you could go into a particular category, go to Category Options, scroll to the bottom, and then provide a numeric value that represents the score of that category. And so you do that for each of the categories that you have, and then you go over to the Interface Builder, and under Filter and Sort, you're going to find a new option called Sum of Category Ranks. And that is going to, in this configuration, sort the results by the grand total, the sum of all these category ranks, in a descending manner, meaning the biggest values are going to show up to the top. And then after that, I have sorting by name in this example. And so if I were to perform a distance-based search, it would use distance first, then sum, then name. And so it works just the same as the rest of our prioritization features. And so that is the new Sum of Category Ranks feature. I hope you guys find that useful. The next feature we're going to talk about is related to lead reassignment. We've updated the lead dashboard to include some measurements around reassignment and its effectiveness. And so if you scroll down in the lead dashboard, you'll see two new options called the reassignment rate and then the ignored rate improvement. And what these mean are the reassignment rate are the percent of leads that were reassigned. Ignored rate improvement is the amount by which reassignment has decreased your ignored rate, meaning how much has it improved your ignored rate. You might be wondering, what is lead reassignment? Why should I care? What is it? How can I use it? Lead reassignment will take an ignored lead and optionally, automatically reassign it to another or multiple available locations who have historically acted on leads. And so there's a bunch of options related to this, but essentially it avoids ignored leads from being permanently ignored. It can take that ignored lead and then automatically reassign it in a way that will hopefully get that lead acted on. And in this example, we can see that reassignment improved that lead acknowledgement by about 24%, or I should say decreased ignored rate. And so lead reassignment is a great way of getting leads that would otherwise go completely ignored and moving them on to additional locations who may be qualified and available to service that particular lead. The next one we're going to talk about are lead rejection emails. This might sound negative, but it's a great way of actually letting your customer know how to move forward after a dealer may have rejected a lead. First thing we'll do is define what lead rejection is. In MetaLocator's lead system, dealers can be given the option to accept or reject a lead. This is part of lead status reporting. And if they decide to reject it, historically, the customer would not be notified that their lead was rejected, and ultimately they would have no way of acting on it unless some manual action was taken by an administrator. This option enables a new notification to your customers an example of which is shown in the background here, where we provide a notification that that lead was rejected and a link to get them back to the locator to select another dealer. So this is a little way to inform your customer that their inquiry is not going to move forward unless they take action. You can customize the template that you see, you can customize the subject, and otherwise help customers move on from what would otherwise have been a kind of dead end in the user experience. Just a couple small updates for the remainder of this video. The first one is that we have removed Google reCAPTCHA from our systems. We did some kind of long studies to determine how often it was actually leveraged, and turns out the existing spam prevention options that we have are doing a great job, and they continue to do so. reCAPTCHA costs a lot in terms of its performance cost, and so we're ultimately getting rid of it, and we'll continue to monitor our spam as we always do. And so the other piece is that we've supported now a by appointment only hours designation. So if you don't know about this, we can now specify hours as open, closed, but then also by appointment only. So by appointment only was recently extended in its support to the location landing pages, and that's what ML1378 is about. The next one also is the ability to, when you expand and collapse items inside of a results card, programmers will notice that a class, a CSS class, is added to the card. So if they want to style things based on when a toggle is expanded or collapsed, they can do that. Kind of a small thing, but a nice to have. And then the last one that we'll talk about is on the lists in the back end of MetaLocator. You'll notice that we have introduced a sticky header across the top. So notice as I scroll past this table header, it comes along with me as I scroll. So we got some feedback that as people work in some of these long lists, they start to forget what the individual columns mean. And this was a great way of basically allowing you to still see the column headings even if you've scrolled past them. That's the basics for this release. A lot of lead focused stuff, a lot of lead reassignment stuff. Feel free to hit us up on support if you have any questions or a feature suggestion for us. Thanks a lot, and happy 2026.